Hi, I'm DJ Sixsmith. You're watching The Sit Down, brand new Simon Schuster book all about Michael Bloomberg. Randolph is here with us. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, and thank you for having me.
Of course. How's everything going?
You know, I mean, the guy had many lives,
Yeah.
so I've been very busy.
You certainly have. And there's obviously a lot to talk about with Michael Bloomberg.
There really is.
You covered him for many, many years. So
Too many.
Too many, right? You're like, can we just end this already? Like,
Yeah,
can we
that's
just call it quits? I mean, it's crazy to think he's almost 80.
Yeah.
And you've been covering him for a long time. So what was it like putting this all together?
Oh, I'm telling you, it was the worst thing. I tell people this: do not write a biography about somebody who's alive, because you know he's still moving. That's why it's the many lives of Michael Bloomberg, because we might have to attach another chapter on the end at some point. You know.
Yeah, and he's still active and still involved.
Still very active.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because a lot of people have obviously brought up 2020 and whether or not he would run, but like he's doing his thing kind of in the background. He's getting involved with the whole Jewel thing now. So what's it like for you to see him at this point in his life?
Well, you know, it's really interesting. He wanted to be president of the United States. When he was at Johns Hopkins, he used to, you know, talk to friends, say, are you going to make fun of the first Jewish president of the United States? Or how are you going to say that to the first Jewish president of the United States? He wanted to be. He never wants to be a board member. He wants to be in charge. But I think 2016 was a big lesson for him. They really put together a pretty good campaign for him as an independent. And he decided at the last minute that, not really at the last minute, sorry, he decided that that if he were in that race, he would pull votes away from Hillary Clinton and help elect Donald Trump, and that would be in the first paragraph of his obituary. And he didn't want that. So this time around, I think he decided that that the left had sort of, the progressives had kind of taken over the party, and there wasn't really room for another centrist. He would be more a centrist like Joe Biden.
Well, it's interesting because when Howard Schultz announced his run for the presidency, he kind of got slammed with similar things that Mayor Bloomberg would have dealt with in 2016.
Oh yeah, and Bloomberg really said, you don't want to run as an independent. Yeah. You're gonna, you know, you'll destroy the Democrats if you do that.
Just the way the system is right now, it's just next to impossible for that to happen as an independent.
Yes, yeah. I mean, every state has made it difficult for an independent to be in the primaries and be, well, you can't have primaries.
Right. Was there a time when you covered him as mayor that you thought he would be president?
Actually, no.
No, never?
You know, first of all, he was a very good mayor, I thought, with a few caveats here and there. But he can't give a speech. He's not a good speaker. He gave, there are two speeches that he's given. One, the Democratic National Convention in 2016, he gave a very, very good speech. And then in 2010, he gave a very important speech about the right of a group of Muslims to build a center near Ground Zero. And it was a very important speech, and he said in that speech, you know, what firefighter asked what religion you are as they were saving people from the towers.
That's pretty interesting. For all the speeches he's given his career, really those are the only two that pop out in your mind.
Well, you know, he's said a lot of important things. I mean, and he's written a lot of important things. He's given a lot of speeches at colleges, you know, and they're interesting. But those are the two best speeches that he's given.
Where do you think Mayor Bloomberg has shined the most in his career? Because there's a lot of different lives that you hit on here, and obviously the business sector he's had success in, politically he's had success, but what do you think his greatest impact has been?
You know, I think we're going to watch him now really. He started in 2005 taking on the National Rifle Association, and his advisors told him then, you know, don't do that. You know, first of all, they're so powerful politically, but secondly, all those people have guns. And so, you know, that just encouraged him. And so he really has made an impact there and as you know, funded groups that are fighting for gun control. And then the second, I mean, it all sort of comes under it's health, it's public health that he really cares about, and that's guns. And the climate change issue is now sort of at the top of his list. He's talked about spending $500 million over the next few years to try to get rid of coal-fired power plants and to make sure the air is a little cleaner as we go forward.
Yeah, that would be nice, right?
It'd be nice.
Yeah. It's really interesting because he was in the political game for such a long time, and we always talk about outsiders and their impact, and the NRA has obviously had an impact, but now with his money, he can really make an impact. So how do you think he balances that between a guy that used to be in the game and now is outside the game but still making an impact?
You know, I mean, that's a very good question. I think one of the things I think is really interesting about how he's doling out his money is that after being mayor of New York City, he changed the city in some important ways, but I think the city also changed him and made him realize that mayors are on the ground. They are the people who make a difference in people's lives. And so he's worked to organize mayors and to help mayors, and he really is a pro-city philanthropist. And it's kind of interesting because I don't know if anybody else is doing anything like that.
That's really interesting. So with people like Mayor Bloomberg or people that rise up and are leaders in our society, I'm always interested in, kind of how they got going early on. So you go all the way back to childhood, you go through Johns Hopkins. What fascinates you the most about his journey to where he's ended up?
You know, he started out, when you go back, Joyce Pernick wrote a really good biography, and she talked to people who are no longer with us, but like his mother. And from the beginning, he wanted to run everything. His mother said, he wants to be in charge of everything. And he also, that's the one thing, and the other thing was that he gave a little speech in Medford, Massachusetts, where he lived, and he loved it. He loved being in front of the microphone. He loved, the lights, the attention, all that sort of stuff. And in many ways, he sort of carried all that forward.